Ready? Okay, good morning. For those who are coming in, welcome to the Grassland Policies, Social Issues, and Ecosystem Services Volunteer Oral Presentation session. Our speaker at 10:30 this morning will be talking about public policies for the development of a sustainable forage-based cattle sector in Colombia, Argentina, and Costa Rica, a comparative analysis. This time I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. If you want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about where you're from, and take your time.
That's good, thanks. I think I won't need the microphone, so I'll just stand here. My name is Stefan Burkhardt. I'm a senior scientist at the Alliance of Biodiversity in CIAT, based in Colombia, in Cali. And I'm leading the research group on socioeconomics for forages and livestock in the Alliance. And I'm presenting, as you mentioned, a topic on public policies in Latin America, which is actually a study that was conducted by two of my former colleagues, Leonardo Lerma and Manuel Diaz. They can't be here, unfortunately, so I'll do the presentation. So first of all, I'll give a bit of information on the context, the objective, and the methodology. So Latin America is very important when it comes to the cattle sector. So in terms of global figures, Latin America contributes to 25% of the global beef supply and 10% of the global milk supply. And within that region, the cattle sector guarantees a lot of internal and external benefits. So it's very important for food security. It contributes to the economic growth of all those countries, right? So the cattle sector is really one of the central subsectors within the agriculture sector. But despite this importance for the region, there are a lot of, or there can be a lot of negative implications on the environment, as probably most of you know. Depending on how these livestock systems are being managed. So, for example, they generate a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. They're responsible for land degradation and deforestation. They threaten biodiversity, and they're responsible for water pollution and depletion, and so on. And since many of these countries have become aware of these problems, and a lot of international pressure has occurred over the last, let's say, 2 decades. This has led to a lot of discussions on how to change the cattle sector in many of these countries and how to make the cattle sector more sustainable. So against this background, the objective of our study was to review different public policies in 3 countries for the period of 2010 and between 2010 and 2020 in Colombia, Argentina, and Costa Rica, to see how they have evolved over time, what types of policies exist, how they are linked to each other, and how these countries can be compared to each other in terms of the advances they have made in those policies. So basically, what we did was a review study with a qualitative descriptive approach. We used literature review as the main data collection technique with some expert interviews as well. And for literature, we based on 3 different types of data sources. So on the one hand, we had scientific articles, of course. There's not a lot, as you can imagine. Gray literature, such as publications from international organizations and national development organizations. And of course, all the relevant legal documents and public sector documents. So when it comes to Colombia, there were actually quite a lot of advances over the last decade. So in terms of legislative advances, some new laws and decrees have been established, as the ones mentioned here. The ones mentioned here are from 2017 and 2018. But just now, there's a new decree. It's a new regulation that basically searches for the development of a sustainable cattle sector. So it's the first national level public policy for sustainable cattle in Colombia, and that was launched last year. It's not here because at the time of the study it wasn't launched yet. There are a lot of regional level public policies, such as the departmental agriculture extension plans, that over time have adopted the concept of sustainability and really seek to transform the sector or to make it more sustainable over time. Then national level public policies, the agricultural rural development policy, for example, and there are many multi-sector initiatives. Like there was a big research development project, the Sustainable Colombian Cattle Project, that focused on the establishment, on the testing, piloting, and establishment of different alternative sustainable production models, mainly on silvopastoral systems, and that really started, let's say, a large-scale implementation of silvopastorale systems in the country. And then another very important multi-sector initiative is the Colombian Roundtable for Sustainable Cattle. It was established in 2014 as a very small initiative at the beginning, but now it contains more than 70 actors from both the public and private sector. And there are also a lot of national and international development organizations part, and the aim is to discuss how to move the sector towards more sustainability, to influence public policy making. So basically this roundtable is responsible for the new public policy I just mentioned at the beginning. And for many other things. They are also present in the main cattle regions within the country and focus a lot on capacity building. They bring together regional actors at a more regional scale in those cattle departments. So there's the national level roundtable, and then you have like 15 regional roundtables that really go and work on the ground with the people. Then, of course, there have been some advances in terms of the development of the sustainable cattle NAMA. So NAMA is the nationally appropriate mitigation actions. Then zero deforestation value chains for beef and dairy have been promoted, and an integral program for productive environmental reconversion of the cattle sector. So as you can see, a lot has happened over the last 10 years, and it continues to evolve. Of course, there have been some successes in that process, but also some difficulties, right? So when it comes to successes, a good thing is that really facilitated this development was the stability of the political economic system for more than 3 decades now. Then, of course, the national development plans, they had certain continuity, and really, when you look into those plans, you can see advances from one plan to the next one and to the next one. So every time the topic of sustainability, of improved forages, of sustainable production systems, of silvopastorale systems got more relevance. And of course, the existence of the roundtable I just mentioned is probably the element that facilitates this transformation most in the country. Then, as mentioned as well, here it says a strong progress has been made in terms of the national level policy, which has been launched now. And silvopastorale systems have been promoted a lot. And also new, there now exists a specific credit line for the establishment of silvopastorale systems. So farmers that are interested in establishing that don't have to apply for credit. I don't know, that is normally destined for buying more animals or something like that. There now exists a particular credit line just for the purchase of planting material and so on. There were also many difficulties, of course. So one is that the national level policy framework is very young, so it's at its early stages. That means it's not a linear progress. In some parts it is, as I mentioned in the national development plans, but there are still bits and pieces everywhere. There are a lot of different people working on that that have to come together somehow. And that's difficult at the moment still. So one element, as I mentioned, is the roundtable that helps to bring those people together. But still there are here and there other initiatives that are not yet linked to that roundtable. And also the agriculture extension plans, although they really show progress, they are also very young. And they are not being applied in all the different departments of the country yet. As I mentioned, there's partly insufficient coordination among the different entities and also among the different policies, especially when it comes to the national and regional level policies. So there's not a lot of articulation. And one of the most severe points is the lack of funds. So as I mentioned, last year this policy was launched, but it can't be implemented yet because there's no assignment of funds. So, yeah, as you can see, it's advancing, but the difficulties are very, very, very big still. Okay, in Argentina, it looks similar in some way. So you have some legislative advances, some new laws, regional level public policies, like the pastures and savannas of the southern cone of South America, a conservation initiative, and 2 cattle plans that focus on sustainability. Then there are national level public policies like the Rural Change 2 Innovation Investment Policy, the National Management Plan for Forests with Integrated Cattle that focuses on sustainable, on silvopasture systems, and the National Program on Natural Resources, Environmental Management, and Ecoregions. And also interesting, the multi-sector initiatives. There are 2, the Grassland meat or Grassland beef, meat or beef, and the Argentine Sustainable Beef Board, which is similar to the Colombian Roundtable for Sustainable Cattle. Yeah, and as you can see, the successes are more numerous than the difficulties in Argentina. So there's a clear national development plan with an environmental sustainability component. There are many laws that promote forest protection, environmental balance, climate change, mitigation strategies. The development of the multi-sector initiatives promote the sustainable beef production quite a lot, such as the existence of the Argentine Sustainable Beef Board that really brings together different actors and also searches for synergies among the different policies. And because of that, also the national level policies are articulated well with the regional ones, with the provincial ones. And the regional public policies are focused a lot on the adoption of silvopasture systems and good animal husbandry practices. So there, in what we found out is there's more advances. There have been more advances made in Argentina yet than in Colombia. The difficulties are the environmental conditions that affect and still affect the cattle sector. So there are more droughts and so on, also related to climate change, that make the implementation of some elements of those plans and policies quite difficult. There's also high political instability, which has led to changes in the development model over time. So the policies had to be adjusted to that whenever such a change occurred. Of course, the inflation and unstable exchange rates also contribute to that, especially when it comes to the purchase of inputs for the establishment of more sustainable production systems. And a decrease in wages and reduction in national beef consumption add to that. And then the last country, Costa Rica, is probably the one of those 3 that is most advanced. So also legislative advances, regional level public policies, also like the livestock development plans, multi-sector initiatives. The Cattle NAMA is well established already in Costa Rica. That brings together a lot of actors and really creates synergies. And then you have also national level public policies, like the Costa Rican policy for the agri-food sector and rural development, policy for the agriculture sector and development of rural territories, and so on. And as you can see, a lot of success there. So it's really well, in Costa Rica, it's really well advancing. There's a lot of political stability for several decades now. Low inflation and stable exchange rates. The national development plans include sustainable production components. The diversity of the national regional public policies are framed in the objective of carbon neutrality of the country, which is very important. And also regional livestock plans have a clear focus on environmental sustainability. There's a strong promotion of silvopasture systems at both the national and regional level. And there already exist payment schemes for ecosystem services. Difficulties, well, if you can name some, there's no like multi-actor initiative like we have in Colombia, Argentina with the roundtables, but it seems to work anyway in Costa Rica, and the carbon neutrality objective was postponed. Yeah. So what happened with all these different advances in the different countries? So in Colombia, there are 237 million of greenhouse gas emissions, tons of greenhouse gas emissions per year. And the country also only manages to absorb like 23 million tons through forest plantations and crops. So there's a huge gap still that has to be filled somehow. And well, to mitigate that a bit, the national government has set the goal of planting 180 million trees by the end of the period 2018-2022. It has yet to be analyzed how far they have gotten with that. I think there have been some difficulties, to be honest, but yeah, we'll see about that. In Argentina, there was quite a strong implementation of silvopasture systems, and they reach approximately 34 million hectares now, which is probably which makes Argentina probably one of the countries with most hectares of silvopasture systems in that region. And Argentina also has the carbon balance with the highest surplus in the region, which means it's sequestering 12 times what it emits. Costa Rica, well, as I mentioned, there were a lot of advances, so almost 62% of the cattle farms already count with forest area. There have been a lot of efforts for afforestation. So if you see maps of Costa Rica that show deforestation, afforestation, the forests really grow over the last decade. The country has around 20 million scattered trees in pastures, which is also quite a good advance. And it the cattle sector captures almost 3 times the amount of greenhouse gas emissions it emits. So we have some basic conclusions here. There's quite a strong political will in all these countries to move the sector towards more sustainability, to really assure a political framework that supports this development. But the advances are, of course, dissimilar. So as I mentioned, probably the benchmark for the region is Costa Rica. Then you have countries like Argentina, which are like in between. And then you have like newcomers like Colombia, where the advances are good, but yet a lot of things are missing. Yeah, so as I mentioned, not all results are fully satisfactory, but it doesn't mean that those policies should be abandoned. So they should continue actually in those countries with that progress. They should establish more like these multi-sector initiatives, develop those initiatives a bit more, and also find financial means to support the implementation of those policies. Yeah, and so these policies are really valuable contributions for those countries, but we have to assume at this moment that they are at very first stages in a long-term process. So it means that probably if you do the same analysis in 10 years, there are many more advances to show and many more synergies among these different plans and policies. So yeah, that's what I had for today. If you're interested in reading more about that, we have an article published, which you can see here on the left side, a policy brief, what is that one, and some other documents that are related to this topic. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm glad to see that some people made it here, because when I arrived here, there was nobody.
Any questions for our speaker?
Is there any data? I noticed one bit of planting of trees to see what growth. Is there data per acre, per hectare, on carbon sequestration of trees versus managed raised beds?
Yes, we have some data. Well, from colleagues of us at our department that focus on that, particularly in silvopasture systems, yeah.
What are the numbers?
Oh, you asked me things. One of our colleagues is actually coming tonight, and he has a poster presentation that partially deals with that. So if you want, I can introduce you to him, and he can give you some numbers, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering why the focus is on cattle only, because there is over livestock.
Because cattle is so relevant in those countries. Yeah. And
Even like the cattle trade, it goes with the protection system, the forest,
yeah.
And then I was wondering, it's nice to have legislation, but when it comes to the application or the enforcement of the law, happen if someone doesn't really obey? Is it voluntary to be part of this program, or
Yeah, that's a good
to
question.
make it happen?
So, related to the first question, there was actually a lot of discussion in Colombia within that roundtable whether the focus should be on cattle only or also on other livestock. And then in the end, it was decided to focus on cattle and buffalo because it's the most relevant sector when it comes to environmental problems in the country, and also because of the economic and social importance it has. So I imagine that in the other countries it's similar. That doesn't mean that there are no policies or advances for poultry or pigs or whatever. I think there also are. It's beyond my expertise, to be honest, but I think there are some. And then, what was the second question? So also for Colombia, I think the new policy, once implemented, is not so voluntary. So the idea is actually to bring people to really change, and which is very difficult also when it comes to monitoring, since Colombia has a lot of very remote areas where cattle production happens, which are difficult to access, where public safety is an issue always. And I think like the public policymakers are not really aware of those difficulties yet, or not so much. So I think there's a lot to discuss to see how this can be implemented really. At the moment they are thinking about implementing through these regional roundtables, so to basically designating the implementation to those roundtables, which contain of course important actors at the regional level, but also from the national perspective. But yeah, we need to see about that. So far, many things are still voluntary, yes, yeah. But I think that's not what's going to happen over the next 10 years, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, our next sessions until 12 o'clock are not here because the speakers had travel conflicts. And so our remaining presentation for this session will begin at 12 p.m. We apologize if you were planning to stay for the other talks as part of this session, but please, we would encourage you to come back at 12 for the remaining presentation. Yeah. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Grassland Policies, Social Issues, and Ecosystem Services Volunteer Oral Presentations section. This afternoon, to get us started and finished for this session, is Dr. Liliani Silva, and she is going to be presenting on development of forage curriculum for extension educators in the Southeast USA.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming here. I know that I'm standing between lunch for everybody, so I hope that you have a good time here and enjoy what I'll be talking about. So, just to get everybody situated, because I know we have different folks in the room that might not be as familiar with the Southeast region. So in the Southeast, livestock production is one of the major activities that we have there, and our livestock systems are based on grasses. So we are able to be growing some forages and having the animals grazing there for a good period of the year for our systems. And for this reason, we do have a lot of the resources that are available for extension agents, agricultural professionals as well, on those forage systems and the practices that they can use. And there's still need to develop more educational resources, especially if we start thinking about the sustainability and environmental discussions that we're having currently and how we need to address some issues, and also bring more of the research findings to be available for extension and educational activities, and that those resources can be available on a language and in a way that the producers can use and start to get more involved with that as well. And for this reason, we do need to be looking at providing training for the professionals that are directly interacting with producers. And this was one of the reasons that we worked on, as a group, on a multidisciplinary project that we were able to get a grant for. And we were able to develop written, online, and in-person resources to bring those professionals together and talk about several topics. So just to contextualize, I'll be talking more directly about one grant that we got as a group in the Southeast region. I was in Auburn still when we were able to get this, which is called Train the Trainer type of program that the Southern SARE has available for us. And we were able to put a group of around 20 specialists together from 5 land-grant universities. And with that, we worked on several topics. And among them, we did include forage and animal production. We included economics, farm business management, soil management, livestock production for different systems. And the reason that we looked on developing those resources for such a variety of topics is because when we're looking at the system, we need to have an approach that's going to be for the whole system. And there are several points that we need to provide more training and more information about so people can really get more resilience, more profitability of their systems. So our target for this grant was extension agents, agricultural professionals, and some farmers that are considered the mentors for some of those areas that they are located at. So for those farmers, the general definition for them is that they usually are the ones that more farmers come to them to ask for advice, to ask for what they are doing, and they serve as resource for their areas as well. So these are the universities represented. So Clemson University, because I'm there now, I've been in Clemson for a year and a half. The extension system in Auburn, the University of Georgia extension system, UF, Florida, and also North Carolina. We were the group that were working together as the specialist part. So in April last year, we were able to put the first training together. This training was in person, and we had a group of around 80 people coming to Columbiana to have a 2-day training together. So the way that we designed this was to have the first day in classroom and the second day just hands-on, no PowerPoint, just to really have more experience, more exchange of experience and more training for how to do things. And the approach that we used for the whole training was to try to get tools to the agents for them to be able to use the knowledge and also show them some opportunities that they could use to teach others. So even the demonstrations that we were setting up, we were trying to focus on that, how they could use for their own clientele later, and the same resources. And so this training also came up together from the understanding that we have a lot of newer, younger agents on the job. And when I'm saying that, it's not about the age, but also the experience that they have. Usually they've been on the job for 3 years or less, a lot of them in a lot of the different systems that we have from the land-grant universities. So we thought that this would be a good opportunity to merge some of those groups with trying to attract a lot of the early career agents, and also having on the mix the agents that have been on the job for longer than that. And we were really able to get that good match from both. And through that, they were able to share experience and really interact a lot. And that was also one of the things that we're trying to do with this training. For the first day, we had our keynote speaker was Dr. Ball, And we particularly asked him to talk about how to set up the extension program, and also share some of the experience that could be helpful for those in the audience, and try to also emphasize some points that the early career agents should be thinking about, and especially in terms of how to interact with the specialists in the area that they are working on, and some of those conversations that sometimes we do not necessarily think about when we just started on the job. So on that first day, we also had some concurrent sessions with different topics, and we tried to cater for the different groups. So we had those early career agents, and we had some more basic, more entry-level talks, but also we had some other topics and talks that were trying to cater for the folks with more experience, and they could choose, like we're doing here with this program, they could choose and go to the talks and try to catch with the topics that they wanted to. And one of the parts that I really enjoyed, and I have some folks here in the room that they were either participating as the attendees or the specialists in this training, and they can share their experience as well. But one of the parts that I really enjoyed was to have a round table with some of the senior agents, and I do have somebody here in the room that was on that round table. And so the way that I said we set up this round table was to try to get the agents that were in the job for 15 plus years from different land-grant universities. So like I said, we had around 60 plus agents there from different land-grant universities. We had 7 universities represented. And we were able to have them from different places. So, oops, it's not working. So North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama, and Dr. Valal and I were moderating that session, and we had some questions that we thought about and we were bringing in as a starter for the conversation, but the whole point was to really try to include those in the audience to get involved with that round table, get to experience and to ask questions if they had, and really try to get the best of that experience that we were having there. And this was really important from our point of view to try to integrate the agents into the training, because they are the ones that have been doing this for a long time, and they can think about different points that sometimes we might not, and they could share some of those experiences with everybody, but especially with those early career agents, which is really important and can really make a difference on that. So this was the second day. We had only hands-on experience in the field. We did had several things, so I'm not really going to go through the whole agenda. So we included weed control talks, like everything that they could, marking plots, the forage variety trial, why it's important, and nutrition. We had like several things that we were addressing them. For this training, we did develop a textbook that was the base of the training. I actually have one copy on my my purse here, and this was distributed to the attendees and to farmers as well since last year, but it's also available for download with that QR code there. We just won an award on this grant from the South Carolina Agricultural Agents Association, and this has been a really good resource that we were able to put together and really to cover all the topics that I just spoke about. And I'm just going to highlight some of the inputs that we got through the surveys. For those of you that are familiar with extension, it's always important for us to get some feedback of the activities that we're doing, and that's what we try to do with this training, providing surveys to try to get some assessment to what should be the next steps and what can we improve from what we did as well. So some of the points that I just wanted to highlight is that we asked how many hours the agents from the different universities they were required to take. So most of the attendees, they are required to have some sort of a professional development activities throughout the year and be meeting that requirement in terms of hours. So this is definitely one of the ways that we can be helping them to meet those requirements. And we had only, so from 65 attendees, agents, we only had 25 attendees that had more than 7 years of experience. So just take a minute to think about this, how important it is to have those trainings for those early career agents that sometimes they did not really get the training in specific areas that they are covering now. So this is definitely something that we can be addressing as a group for the region, because we have so many similarities on that region in terms of the force and the systems that we are using. And over 9% of those in attendance, they did rely on written publications, so either from their own state or out of state. So having something that they can come back as the textbook to just, when they get they have a question or something, that can be a resource as well for them. So the agents really appreciated that we were able to cater to how to teach the clientele with some of those activities that we're doing. And most of them have already been using demonstrations to try to explain some of those harder concepts, harder to grasp concepts. So it's really good when we're able to have more demonstrations, different ways that they can be doing their job. And 94% of them planned to integrate the knowledge that they got throughout the training to their own clientele. Something that I wanted to emphasize is that because we're giving the training for the region, we have several agents that they are just across the border, really close together. So we're trying to emphasize the networking, not just with the specialists, but also among the agents. Sometimes they can be doing some work together, an event together. It's fairly close to a lot of them. So this was really something that I think was really beneficial for them. And we had requests, and I actually had several requests since then, but we had requests during the training to try to continue to do this, have some type of continuity to this event, and maybe even alternating locations. Unfortunately, we do rely on fundings, and we applied for a grant. Unfortunately, we did not get that this year. But hopefully this can become something that we can be working together as in the region and trying to allocate fundings for future trainings as well. So I'm just going to wrap up. I don't know how much time I have. Okay, so this was the second step. This was an online training. I just wanted to emphasize, and I can talk more later about this, but I just want to emphasize that for this online training, we had over 200 live attendees for 2 days, 2-hour events. Among the 6 speakers, 4 of them are agents. So this is really important to emphasize because they can be talking about some of the points that they have been doing, some of the associations they are working, and it's important for the agents to have this opportunity to just learn with others and see what else they could be talking. 14 states were, I think just from 14 states in US and 3 countries. And also I have the videos on YouTube on my personal Forge Drops page available. So this is something that if you all are curious, you can just check that later. Just a quick marketing here. We have a book coming up, and this is just a brand new book that's going to be available Oregon booth for this booth. So if you'd like a copy, please stop by and get that. It's a collaboration across the region again, and this is going to be really nice to have. If anybody has any questions about the particular grant, this is how you can get more information. This is my contact. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but I believe I don't have time. So thank you so much for coming, and if anybody wants to talk, I'll be here. Thank you.
Any questions for our speaker? I'll take one.
Everybody's hungry, Kim.
That's right. She's giving you lunch. She'll be around. Thank you.
Good job.